Hey, what's up, good people? Welcome to the FiredUp KC episode. It's your host, Zeke, and you are watching The Dream. And on this episode, we are going all the way to the Pentagon because the man I'm about to bring on, he's a boss man. I'm telling you, he is the first immigrant to be on the Space Force of the United States. The Pentagon. So please help me make welcome the one and only Mr. Ramon Ayoade. How you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great, Zeke. Nice to be here as well. Thank you
Good to
very
have
much
you
for
on. Your dress fly. I like your.
Hey, hey, it's Sunday. It's Sunday, right? So
Yeah, Sunday. You gotta put on the Sunday best. We out here. But and it's great to have you on the show. It's an honor to have you here. But for those who do not know, and you go by Deji Ayoade, if I'm pronouncing that right.
yeah, that's right.
Awesome. So just give people a little bit of bio about yourself and kind of where you're from and kind of how you got to where you are today.
Yeah. Like you introduced me already. So I just go by DJ Ayoade. Born and raised from Nigeria, Lagos actually. Uh, did my primary school, secondary school over there, and I went to the University of Ibadan. So I studied veterinary medicine over there.
Okay.
Graduated and practiced a few years. I did research for some time.
Okay.
With scientific medical research and traveled to Europe, a couple of countries over there, just as a visiting researcher and back to Nigeria. So eventually I got a cross scholarship to come to the United States for a grad school, for a grad program. So that's how I came here.
Right.
And I came here, finished my program, started wrote my board exams in the US. And after that decided, met now my wife, then my girlfriend,
Right.
when I was in grad school, and I decided, to just continue and join the military. So I started off with the Navy.
Okay.
Spent a couple of years in the Navy, and then I commissioned into the Air Force. Spent a couple of years as well on active duty.
Okay.
And eventually finished my active duty time, rode into reserves, and then initially, our plan was to come back here to Virginia. Our last duty station was in Wyoming in 18, and we wanted to come back here, and I was going to go back to practicing medicine because my immediate job in the Air Force wasn't medical related.
Yes.
But then I came back here, and I ended up back in the Pentagon.
Wow.
So.
Wow. That's a huge deal. Even before we get into that, so give us a backstory, right? What inspired you? What was it like being in Nigeria? Because I know I had the dream of going to the US one day or leaving the country. What was that like for you as a young person? Did you ever aspire, have all this, imaginations of like one day I'm gonna go to the US, or what was it like for you?
Yes, that's a good question, and I usually try to avoid that question, but you got me, because sometimes it's very emotional for me, right? For me, it goes back as far back as when I was 7 years old, and I didn't like where I was and what was going on around me. I wanted a better life. I dreamt of a better life for my mom, my siblings. I'm the first for my mom, and if you grew up in, I'm not sure. It depends. If you're born and raised in Nigeria, and if you're not from a well-to-do home like that, you understand what I'm talking about, And so I remember when I was 7 years old, I told my mom that one day I will become a doctor, I will become an American citizen, and I would give us a better life. I was only 7 then when I told my mom that.
Wow. And
so for me, it's always been that picture, just growing up and always, it just had that. I've always had that dream. It wasn't just for me, but just my family, and that really drove me.
Yes.
I think there's so many other things that a lot of Nigerians are familiar with, back home, besides the opportunities. For me, it's deeper than that. It's not just opportunity. It's more like what opportunities could be afforded to the folks I'm looking at, my mom and my siblings, that would help them accomplish the best version of themselves.
Yes, yes, yes.
You know, so if I want that for myself, they deserve the same opportunity, and that was it for me. And that's why, you know, that's why I'm here. That's how I ended up in the US.
Yes, man. I mean, I hear you, because if you're Nigerian, you're not from like a rich family, it's hard to have even a day-to-day normal life, because it's really, it's tough. Now give us a story of like when you came to US. How was that like for you? How was the transition for you? What are the things that you came to start learning that you never knew was a thing in the US?
well, for starters, right, I came to the US and figured out the use of English was different, because back home, right, we studied in British English, right?
Yep.
And I remember the first time I told my friend, hey, I'm in haste. I gotta, I have to get somewhere. And my friend looked at me and said, I was over at Brandeis University.
Yeah.
And they had a lot of international students, but we had a lot of American students that I was friends with. So they all looked at me and said, you mean you're in a hurry? I'm like, yeah, I'm in a hurry. I would use words like, seldom, or I use trafficators, and they're like, what do you mean trafficator? Like, the thing in front of the car, isn't, oh, those are headlights, those are signal lights. Like, well, they're called trafficators,
Yes.
Yeah, so I think the choice of word, that was really interesting. So I had to start learning to change, use the American synonyms. And let's see, because I came straight to Boston and went straight to Waltham, Massachusetts. And, after watching American movies for so long, typical Nigerian, right? And you almost feel like, oh, you know everything about the US. But I think it was just, really nice coming in and seeing a lot of diversity where I came into when I came here.
Yes.
I think that was good. Just kind of trying to understand why are things different, and I think one of the first things that really stood out when I came to, I think I was carrying my passport around everywhere I went, and until my friend, someone said, "Why are you carrying your passport around?" I said, "Well, that's my ID." So, do you in the United States, no cop is going to pull you over and tell you to identify yourself,
Yes.
So, well, in Europe, I experienced that. It's like, well, you're in the US,
Yeah.
So it was good that people, are open, people can talk, the freedom of speech, and
exactly.
That was powerful, for me, when I came in,
Wow. I mean, you said it all. I mean, I think the last person out of my show, we pretty much talking about the same thing. There's Nigerian English, there's American English. Because when you come here, it's like all this, because we don't use R. Like, we don't put R in words, right? Like the word sport, it's sport.
Yeah.
Right? And like, R, it confuses me on this. I'm like, where do I put R? And like, that was my hardest, it's still the hardest thing for me today. Because like, I'm used to pronouncing words without an R. So sometimes I don't even like, just forget about it. We'll figure it out. But anyway, let's fast forward a little bit. Now you are in the US. So you graduated. So after graduation, did you move straight into military after you graduated, after your master's?
No, I didn't actually. So when I was in grad school, at the same time, I was studying for my board exams.
Okay.
And writing that at the same time. And it was about the same time I met not my wife, then my girlfriend then.
Okay.
So what happened was we got married just about when I finished, right?
Okay.
And I started going to interview because you have to redo your kind of residency in the US, right? If you want to specialize. So I was beginning to interview at different, colleges of veterinary medicine, and but at the same time, I deep down inside me, I knew there was more. I had to pick between, if it's just me and my wife, this is easy. I can just do these and I'll be fine. And but if I have to think about my family before I left back home, because I was the first to come, right? I need to figure out a way to match my dreams with trying to give them the same opportunity that I'm looking.
Yes.
I was seeking at the same time.
Yes.
That way we all have some opportunity to to make the best of ourselves. So like, you know what? I'm going to join the military. So as crazy as it might sound, told my wife, and my wife was like, are you crazy? You're a doctor. You don't have your citizenship, you have a green card. So that means you have to enlist first because you cannot commission if you're not a citizen.
Yes.
And then maybe have to go to boot camp, get your citizenship and your clearance, and then you can commission, right? So it's still like a rather longer route to take, right? But the best way, when you're married to an American, right, you have to be very careful how you deliver.
Yes.
How you think about things and why you're doing things you're doing. So, I think the simplest way I kind of put it to my wife was, okay, would you rather we invest the next 5 years in other people's lives? Make all the sacrifices we can now, or you want to keep helping people? It's not like they enjoy you helping them, but given them some opportunity, they'll be fine for a very long time. And I think she resonated with, that resonated with her. And so joining the military was a combination of a lot of things. Number one, my personal fulfillment, right?
Yes.
Number two, I needed to learn to, there were so many lessons I needed to learn how to, you got to humble yourself. That's very important. I believe in integrity. I believe in honor. A lot of things that the military does kind of sits with me and my personal principles, right? And I get to really touch people's lives, doing what I was going to do in the military. But at the same time, it expedited a whole lot of things for me, right? And that I was able to share with other people, my loved ones and people around me.
Yes.
Got my citizenship, right? Coming out straight out of boot camp and, putting my paperwork, I was doing my job. At the same time, I was able to kind of show people how to fish too, if you understand what I'm saying there. So
yeah.
So that drove that drove my joining the military.
Now kind of give us man, because I think it's inspirational. Like you wanted something bigger than yourself. You just didn't want like a normal life, which is it's easy because once you graduate, like, you know what, I'm just gonna get a job. But you're like, I want to push myself further, which I want to say, man, props to you for doing that, because now you're making the whole country proud. Like, man, you are like, you have no idea. I'm so happy to be able to speak with you, because like you are like an example of what an immigrant should be, like a hard worker, successful, being able to put your head down and get things done. So you inspire me as a person, right? Now on the other end, tell us this. So you went into the Navy. So how did you end up becoming, the first immigrant to become to serve as in the Air Force as a nuclear operations officer, as well as to serve as the 3 branches of the U.S. military? Like, how did that all happen? Like, how did you, get to that level?
Okay, so first, now quickly point out is I would say African immigrant for Air Force that I would get there. You said something earlier that I need to touch quickly.
Yes.
I didn't use that statement, but you did. Thinking about being part of something bigger than yourself, and thinking about how you can touch other people's lives.
Yes.
Right. And knowing that when all these people are fine, it will, how that makes you feel matters, right?
Exactly.
So, and I think that was you hit it right, right there. It was, for me, it was always about touching other people's lives. I've always told people it's not always about money for me. It's about fulfillment. And I usually, I always put it is, the military, I did not only have saved lives in the military, but the military saved my life. Because for me, anyway, let me quickly get back to your question, actually.
Yes.
So in the Navy, I didn't think of it like that. It was more like I was in the military doing what, I enjoyed doing. I was doing medical stuff, and I was training a lot of combat medics, and I was, one myself. Yes. But I was always gone from my family, though. In 3 years, I think I saw my family twice. I took leave 10 days, went down to New York, saw my wife and daughter, and then I think they visited one time in San Diego, and at some point in life, when you start having children, it begins to drive some other things, right?
Exactly.
So I had to choose between going down that path, knowing that fine, this gives me tremendous joy just doing what I'm doing and helping folks. But at the same time, I got a family that's missing me, that I'm away from, right? My daughter, I pretty much watch my daughter talk, work on Skype, So we had to make a decision. So my wife said, okay, look, you've gotten this military thing in. You want to come back and then practice or wherever. I had to reach a compromise with my family, right? And that compromise was, I'm going to try commission into the Air Force, because the Air Force, they're more family friendly. They can keep you in one duty position longer for a longer period of time, so you can spend time. But here's the thing: my plan was to go in as a public health officer, actually practice medicine, because in there they take veterinary doctors in as public health officers, right? I wanted to do something medical, but anyways, after putting my application in and everything, I got picked to become a nuclear and missile operations officer.
Wow.
And in my head, I'm thinking, how could I ever qualify for something like that? Number one, I'm an immigrant. Number two, that requires a very high level of clearance.
Exactly.
So, which means that we have to do a whole lot of work to get me cleared, because I grew up in Nigeria, I've been to Europe, I've been all over the place. That takes a whole lot of investigation and a lot of stuff to get cleared. So, but at the same time, I just thank my lucky stars, because, I remember that year, in that cycle, only 3 people were selected, the entire Arizona and California state, and I was the first. I was number 1 on that list, and the Air Force stopped commissioning for the rest of that year.
Wow.
After that, because they were downsizing something like that at the time, So I didn't want to waste the opportunity. What I just, what I do, I remember telling God, like, you know what, I'm just groaning with it, man. Whatever you think, is the best route for me and my family. So be it. So I went to training and to become a nuke officer, but I guess what happened, I showed up to my first military base and they had seen my record and they said, dude, you're a doctor. We don't know what you're doing here, but there's an Ebola outbreak in that was, if you remember the Ebola outbreak a couple years ago. I said, then we need people that can train our guys deploying now, So they pulled me out of what I was supposed to be doing. And I started helping to train folks, because I actually did research on Ebola when I was back home. Okay. So they stored me for 3 months, actually, the public health, and before they released me back to the nuke field.
Wow.
And then I didn't know this until probably maybe halfway through into my training, and I found out, dude, you're the first African immigrant that would have ever done this. Now, I don't know if I'm the first immigrant, because I don't know how many folks that have come before me from other countries, other continents, but it was the first time they would see someone like me, someone who sounded like me, and I have to tell myself that, okay, you can do it. That's why you're here.
Yes.
I didn't allow myself to get intimidated. The folks, we're one team, one fight. I had wonderful team, folks, friends, and it was just amazing. And that happened. Now, how I ended up, so I ended up second service, right? I came out of the Air Force and ended up in the Pentagon with the Air Force, right?
Okay.
Just as a nuclear SME for like a 3-star general, and the Space Force opportunity came, and I applied into Space Force as a civilian. So because they just set up Space Force and they're trying to get things moving, right?
Yes.
And for some reason I got selected.
Wow.
To come in and got promoted into Space Force and just started doing something in Space Force. And I didn't even think about it until one of my friends on LinkedIn said, when I updated my profile with my Space Force position, and we used to pull crew together in Wyoming, and then he said, dude, do you realize this is your 3rd service, right?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I didn't think about that. It's like, yeah, it's your 3rd one,
Wow.
I said, well, technically, I worked with the Marines and the Army when I was in the Navy. So I think I've been around, but you know, officially I've been in three, and I don't think they've had any immigrant, you know, that
wow
have done that before, you know. So
now, I think the thing that really blows my mind is that you were born in Nigeria, you grew up in Nigeria, and all the way from Nigeria. And that's really what I think. I'm like, man, to you, paint a picture. Tell us a story of like, how does that make you feel? Like being able to look back to where you came from and where you are today. What does that bring to you when you think about that? What comes to your mind?
humility,
Yes.
humility, because um, last week, for some reason, when I wake up in the morning, right, the night I try to strategize how the following day is gonna look like. I try to picture things that I need to get done. That way, I can, when I wake up and get ready for work, I'm like a well-oiled machine, right?
Mm-hmm.
But every day when I woke up, one thing came to mind: my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And one particular scene always came to my mind when we were trying to write our final year high school exams, WAEC. You know what that is.
WAEC, yep, I know WAEC, yep.
And we were the last to myself and my brother, we were the last in the entire school of almost 300 final year students that had not paid for our WAEC exams.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the very last day. And I remember we closed, we went home, like, well, I guess we're not writing WAEC because there was no money to pay.
Yeah.
And mind you, we had not eaten. I think we had only one meal in 2 days.
Whoa.
Up to that moment, but all we cared about was that exams because that was our passing was our ticket to college, of course, you know. So, and then given that I had passed the JAM the year before, I wrote my JAM earlier and I had a great score.
Mm.
So my mom showed up around, it was probably 3:34, and my school was like 3 miles from home.
Wow.
So I walked 3 miles to school, 3 miles back, really, literally every day to school throughout my primary school and high school.
Yeah, and it's my fact that you didn't even think about it, right?
Yeah, then it was normal. It was normal, you know. That was the normal thing. And then my mom said, "Wait, we gotta go back." And we're still in our school uniforms, so we're just waiting for her to come back and have, you know. And then she came back and said, "Oh, we gotta go." And then we walked back to school, and then we met the principal at the gate.
Wow. And
then my mom begged him that she's here to pay for our WAEC, and the man, he took us in. And I just wrote. I mean, for some reason, for 4 days straight, it kept coming to my mind, just that picture, and I just kept typing, you know. And the bottom line was, at the end of that story, just a little short thing that I typed up on my phone. It said, you know, my mom is the hero in that story.
Yeah.
Because that selfless action, because she walked around looking for friends, family members, wherever she could borrow money from, to pay for those exams. You know, I remember sitting down and filling out my ID card for that exams and looking at my mom in just a dusty feet, wearing slippers, old Bubani Row, you know, and just couldn't imagine how far she had walked and for how long to give us the opportunity to do that. And I made a mental resolve that no matter what happens, I wasn't going to quit.
Yes.
You know, so for me, there's so many situations like that when I was growing up. Very similar, deep, sad, happiness, things that could almost make you lose hope and your dreams. So it reminds me that without God, without dreams, without faith, and without the use of men, without God using men, we are nothing by ourselves.
Yes.
We can't get anything done by ourselves. We need help.
Yes.
And God has a way of sending those help to us. Now, I'm getting religious here. A lot of people aren't. For those that aren't religious, that's fine. But whatever, we gotta have faith in something. Whatever we have faith in, that's where it comes into play, right? Whatever your faith is in, it might be in yourself, you know, but wherever it is. And that, thinking about that, keeps me grounded and very humble because I'm not here by myself. You know, it's like a chain reaction of what you've done in the past.
Yes.
That gets you to where you are today. And I'll give a quick example. When I was working my TS clearance, by the time, you know, I got several phone calls from people I probably hadn't talked to in years, you know, like, dude, some special agent stopped by to interview us about you. And And then by the time I got cleared, and I counted how many people they might have, that I know of that they had interviewed, probably close to 20 something, 30.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking all it took was just one person
Mm, mm,
to say one bad thing about me
wow.
that would have denied me that opportunity.
Yeah.
And then when I finally, after spending a couple weeks in Pentagon, it turns out how I got my spot in Pentagon, someone walked into an office in Pentagon and heard my last name. Someone mentioned my last name. And then he walked over to that cubicle and asked them, "Are you talking about Ayoade Ramon?"
Mm,
And they said, "Yes, you know him?" He said, "Dude, he's got to be the only one in the Air Force with that last name, not first name, you know." Um, you know,
wow.
I was his commander at his last duty station.
Wow. Wow. Man.
And it turns out they have been trying to call my current commander before I left to ask him questions about me
Mm,
because they were considering me for a spot. Now they couldn't get him on the phone, but when my last commander before that commander, my current commander came in, and he was already working in the Pentagon at that time, right?
yes.
You know, and they know him. He said, "Oh, you can ask me anything you want about him."
Exactly. Wow.
No, what he told them, I don't know, but I do know myself
Mm, mm,
and how he perceived me and how I was as an officer.
yes.
You
Yeah.
know, I'm thinking about that. So, and that's why I tell people, just be good.
Exactly.
Always do things like no one is watching. Like,
Mm,
be who you are when someone is watching and when no one is watching.
exactly.
Because you never just might tell, and be good to people where you don't know when you're going to run into them again,
Yeah.
and how God might be able to use them just the same way God used you for other people.
Yes, man. I'm inspired. Like I'm emotional right now. Like because like the story you just told about your mom coming to like pay your WIAC fee on the day of WIAC. I wouldn't say I have a similar story, but I have different experiences that could like literally be of the same magnitude. For example, I remember one time it was really bad. And me and my mom, there was no food at home, there was no money, and we literally had to go into because we had a little farm. We had to go into the farm, got some vegetables, got some like oranges, pull some oranges down, and
Yeah.
me and my mom, I pushed the oranges and the vegetables in the
Wheelbarrow, yeah.
wheelbarrow. We went to
Wheelbarrow, yeah.
and literally that day I didn't eat till like probably like 3 p.m. But like when the sales she made was how we were able to eat. Like we were doing that every single day to eat like consistently. So me
Yeah.
remember that, and where I grew up, I didn't grow up in like the city. Like I grew up like the road was bad, like it was always flooded. So I had to go through the flood to be able to go to this market. So
Yeah.
when I remember doses, I'm like, man, God is good, right? Like being able to see where you are and where you started, it kind of makes me be like, man, I saw myself here, but I never knew it was going to happen, right? So, on that same note, I know that I had a crazy story when it came to my visa interview. What was your story? What was it like? Was it just a normal interview for you, or how did that happen?
Yeah, my visa interview was interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it helped that before my American visa interview, I had traveled to other places, right,
Okay.
for my research, and so I had a couple. You know how it is. If you already have visas on your passport or you've never traveled before. Anyways, um, I walked in. The lady interviewed me because I was already working back home. You know, I had a job, and I think she wouldn't have given me that visa if she hadn't sent the letter showing that I had good chunk of scholarship
Mm,
from the school already, my scores, that's GRE, and
yes.
I had a great job,
Mm,
So she knew she knew this guy was doing well for himself. One, I
mhm.
think she could sense that, and when she asked me, uh, "What exactly are your plans?" And it's funny that you asked this question because I remember telling her, my plan is to go and make the best of myself.
Mm, mm, mm.
And someday, or when I'm done or whenever that is, I want to come back and give people this opportunity that I have,
Yes, yes.
and use what I get to better other people's lives, and hopefully I might pay it forward enough for those people to keep paying it forward as well.
Exactly. Wow.
Uh, and she looked at me and I remember she just went in the back and then she went to verify the visas on my passport, make sure those were original, the ones that were already on it.
Yeah.
It's just like, no, you've been to Mexico, you've been to, she was just shocked because I looked really small and really young to even be a doctor, So I think that was why she gave it to me, honestly, because I mean, in the past, I had been to American University when I was in final year in vet school, and I wasn't lucky.
Yeah.
I was denied because, like, oh, you're close to graduation, just go back to school. You're not going to come back, But anyway, the point was when I showed up to Brand, as I remember, most of my classmates from Nigeria, because all of us were doctors, really, that I think I found in my class, they all had like 2 year multiple visas. Wow. And I remember she gave me visa for the exact duration of my program in the US.
Wow.
That was, interesting. I was like, oh, I barely made it out.
Wow.
To school. You're like, okay.
But here you are.
What more do I have to do to prove to this lady that, I'm going to school? They said, well, I'm just going to give you enough just for the school time so you can come back. Yeah.
But fast forward, we are here today. But speaking of this is going to be my last question for you. Speaking of being able to go back and be able to reinvest and be able to, create more opportunities for people, are you going to be able to go back one day? Either are you going to go into politics one day, or what is the vision looking like?
Politics. So I'm not thinking about politics.
Okay.
At all right now. My priority right now is to find a way on a larger scale to give people the same opportunity that I've had in terms of scholarships. Mm-hmm. I have a nonprofit that I'm working on. It already took, it kicked off, and we already started awarding scholarships. Yeah. It's just a personal thing between me and my wife that we do currently. But it would make sense to do in a bigger scale, and it's in 3 phases that we're doing it. The first is international students in the United States in grad school struggling or they really need help paying their tuition. Exactly. Of course, that comes with certain eligibilities. They should be doing well in school already, but they just need help. And the reason why we created that, that class of scholars is because I remember when in grad school, my second grad program here, I got stuck. I had like $6,600 balance to pay before graduating, and my church at the time paid that money. Wow. So talk about God using people for you. So why won't I go back and pay back, and do the same to church, but not a one-time thing. It can be an ongoing thing. Exactly. So then the second group of students are like third-year, final year medical students with commitment to practice, to specialize in geriatric medicine and oncology. Reason because I'm really drawn to old people that need help because they're back to that point where when they're kids, right? Mm-hmm. And then oncology, one with cancer. My dad died of cancer really early in life, so I can really connect with that. So yeah, that second set of students that will walk into grant scholarships, and then the third are sort of mission service, medical mission to developing nations. Okay. But strictly public health. Okay. Health campaign, health education type deal. But we call up a few doctors of mine, and eventually when it takes up pretty well, you have volunteers and things like that. Exactly. But currently, I try this stuff with my church every chance, like the next chance, I get to go with, on medical mission with my church, I will do that. Mm-hmm. So for me, because one of the best gifts you can give to someone is education. Exactly. And if you can do that for them and they can remember that, keep that in their heart, they can pay that forward too in the future and have so many more kids. Yes. Students, to make the best of themselves. Man. Politics, that's secondary. I'm not thinking about it right now. Sometimes I think I don't know. I'm not sure if politics. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's for me. Yeah. Maybe political appointments. I don't know, but I'm not thinking about it right now. You're not the first that asked me that question. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I've seen a general ask me that question before too. I don't know why, but
you're in a position. Your resume says yes. Your resume kind of puts you in that position. You have the experience. You have the discipline as well. So,
but thank you. I think that's a compliment.
But anyways, I mean, again, I just want to say thank you again for coming on the show and being able to share your story. Because I think one thing I'm inspired, and I know someone out there who's going to watch this or listen to this is going to be inspired by your story and being able to see how you were committed to what you're doing and how you got to where you are today. So again, I say thank you again for coming on the show. And we've come to the end of the show. This is where we end and kind of talk about like how can people get in contact with you if they want to reach out and connect with you, maybe ask you questions or anything. How can they reach out to you or see what you got going
on? So as much as I have social media presence, but I'm not very big on it. Mm-hmm. But anyone can feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn, Ramon Ayoade, as pronounced, last name Ayoade. I'm on Instagram as well and Facebook as Deji Ayoade.
Okay.
But Facebook, there are two of them, right? I got it. So I published a book a couple years ago, and so I have a book page on both Instagram and Facebook. So personal is Deji Ayoade, but if you want to be a fan, of what I do as a hobby, which is write.
Yes.
I have a website, dejiayoade.com.
Okay.
On Facebook, Deji Ayoade is a single word. Instagram, the memoir blogger.
Okay.
So, feel free to hit me up. If you have any questions. And just one quick thing before we end the show. For those and I'm speaking straight to, it could be any kid anywhere.
Yes.
Especially from the same background that I come from. Mm-hmm. If you ever have a dream, that's a gift on it. On its own. It's very. You think everyone's got. Don't let me go there. Anyway, you have a dream. Stick with it.
Yes.
Just know that hope is very important in our dreams. Helps with that, with sustaining that hope, especially when we start facing adversities on the way. But you also need to have faith. Mm-hmm. Now, your faith can be in anything. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is, but as long as it gives you the strength, exactly. To believe that something that you haven't seen will happen.
Exactly.
Because if you keep at it, you will get a lot of no's on the way, which means those aren't for you. Mm-hmm. You're not getting no's because you're failing. Mm-hmm. Wow. When you fail, you're not failing because you're terrible. You're failing, you're learning ways to not do things. Mm. It's like having a good leader and a bad leader. They're both leaders. You're meant to learn how to do things from one of them and how not to do things from the other one. So you keep going at it. Don't give up no matter what. You may most likely not take the route you think you would take to get to where you see yourself.
Yes.
But eventually you're going to get there and pass to there. But the only way to not get there is for you to stop. Wow. So you can't stop. You just gotta keep going.
Exactly. Wow.
If it's really difficult, you probably should be doing it. So as much as I'm not trying to downplay my accomplishments or achievements and things like that, but I've told you those things just make me humble. I feel like there's so much more I can do. There's so much more, out there to accomplish. And that's just something that I've done in the past. Everything I've done in the past, and now in the past. Now I have to aspire for something else. And once you do that, when you achieve that thing, don't stop there. Think about others, how to bring them closer, how to bring them up as well, and keep going, keep moving forward. It's very important. Thanks so much for the opportunity. And you too, it's a lot of work doing what you're doing, and I really pray that and hope that a lot of our folks, especially Nigerians, we are known for a lot of things.
Yes.
But I like to hold on to the best about us, which means we have a lot of great minds coming out of that country, and we influence this world in from all ramifications, from sports to academia to a lot of things. And I'm really happy that you're doing this, and hopefully this will inspire a lot of our guys to no shortcuts. Try to do things right, be good, be honest, and you see everything will work out. It always work out in the end.
Yes, put your head down and work.
Yep, that's it. You gotta put in the work. You gotta put in the work.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. But man, thank you so much. I'm overloaded. Like I could go run 10 miles right now. I'm motivated. Thank you, Mr. Deji, for coming on the show. It's an honor. But
sure thing.
Before we end, I do this thing. I call this Fast Five, but for the sake of time, I'm gonna cut it short for 3 questions. So the first question I'm gonna ask you is, Davido, Wizkid, Burna Boy. Who you going for?
Burna Boy. Burna Boy. Anytime. Don't get me wrong. The other guys are amazing too. Like Wizkid's latest song is just.
Yeah. What was the first Burna Boy song for you? What was the first Burna Boy song you heard that got you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sweet.
Yeah.
See, I've been working with Burna Boy since the first song that I heard from him that really got me was "Smoke Some Weed." I don't even heard that song before.
Yeah, but I don't know the lyrics, but I have all his albums on my iTunes now.
Yeah, I don't smoke weed, but that song was like really, it was on another level for me because it was just quiet and it was inspiring, but different. Yeah. But second question, this should be easy. Nigerian jollof or Ghana jollof?
Of course, Nigerian jollof, man. Anytime, any day.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Final question. What is your favorite Nigerian dish?
Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't have a favorite dish. I don't.
All of them.
My favorite dish. I just eat, man. So I'm the kind of guy. If I complain about food, you're probably not eating that food. It must be really terrible. I love trying different things, but in Nigeria, I love all the food, man. I love all the food, from banga soup to ewedu to gbegiri to whatever, man, to ugu, and I eat anything, man.
All of them.
Yeah. No favorite dish.
Anyways, thank you again for coming on the show. I really appreciate you joining us today. It's been an honor. But for those of you watching at home or in your office, wherever you are, thank you for tuning in today. And this has been another FiredUp KC episode. This is The Dream. And thank you. I'm your host, Zeke Wanganga. You know what to do. Subscribe, share, like, let people know. Let's get this popping. And stay fired up. Don't give up. And put your head down and work. Thank you for tuning in.